way at the max scale. About 5.5 pounds. Now for some thoughts on the UMAREX Strike Point versus the CROSMAN 1322 Shootout. Let's run down through the specs real quick, and then we'll talk about my thoughts on these two air guns. First off, multi-pump pneumatic air guns. Both of them. Checks off the box. Advertised feet per second. The Strike Point is advertised at 520 feet per second. And the CROSMAN is 460 feet per second. At first, I was going to cronny these air guns. Then I thought, you know what? They're introductory air guns. You guys have seen me cronny the 1322 on the channel before. And most of the time, it's going to be just an introductory first air gun for somebody where it's not going to matter. You're really not going to be doing pesting and stuff like that with these air guns. It's going to be just shooting cans, shooting plastic bottles, shooting targets, just having fun with them. Next, shot capacity. Just a single round bolt action breech for each one. Both plastic construction breeches on it. Overall length, the Strike Point 14 inches long. On the 1322, we're looking at 13.63, so a little bit over 13 and a half inches long. Barrel length on the Strike Point had a 9-inch barrel. On the 1322, had a 10.1 inch barrel. Next up, weight. Noticeable weight difference on these air guns. And obviously, you can tell just by the size of them. The Strike Point, 2.6 pounds, and the CROSMAN, 2 pounds. So a little bit of a weight difference there. Trigger pull, I was surprised on this. There's just a lot of creep in the trigger pull on the Strike Point, and I don't know if you can fix that. Maybe if you're an air gun smith, you could play around. We were looking way over 8.5 pounds. I would guess probably 10 to 12 pound trigger pull once we got it to discharge. Whereas the CROSMAN consistently 5.5 pounds. Not bad for an introductory air gun. Like I said, first time shooters are going to use this. Kids with a trigger pull of 10.5 to 12 pounds. That's rough. Next up, manual safeties, and they both have them in the frame, and it's just a push plunger on both sides, and the technology works really good. Front sights. On the Strike Point, you have this orange dot sight, but it also has this cover that goes over the front sight, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. On the 1322, you have a bladed front sight, but where the real difference is on the back of these air guns. On the Strike Point, the rear sight just looks cheap on it. The CROSMAN looked more like a sight where you could get proper windage, where you can really adjust it, and you can also flip it around and use it as a peep sight if you so choose. So let's talk about the pros and cons of these two air guns. Pros, both affordable, both in that $60 to $75 range, depending on where you shop. That checks the box. Mods, I didn't see on the forums where there's many mods for the Strike Point, but if you've been around any length of time with the 1322 and the 1377 platforms of CROSMAN, there's almost unlimited mods that you can do on this air gun. Now, accessories as well. I didn't see where there's accessories for the Strike Point, where if I wanted to put on a red dot or a scope. On the CROSMAN, at least they make scope mounts that goes around the barrel, and if you so choose, you could also put on a metal breech. Then you have a rail on there where you're able to attach whatever you want. And just like the 2240 platform. Let's talk about ease of use. And I'm going to be straight up. On the Strike Point, it's terrible. You have to cock it first before you can pump it up with air. One, I think that's a safety issue, especially if you're going to be using it around kids. I would not like to put this in a child's hands, having to cock it. Heaven forbid they put a pellet in there, you're pumping it up, and then they get a negligent discharge and something happens. So that's a major safety issue on this air gun with this. The CROSMAN, you can pump it up, no problem, without having to cycle the breech and the bolt on there. Safety concerns, the CROSMAN wins out on that one. Next one, pinch points. When you're pumping up these air guns, you have that acute, almost 90-degree point right there. Well, what happens is that when you're pumping it up, guess what? You catch the palm of your hand, gets pinched many a times. As I was practicing with this air gun in my backyard, playing around out here, plinking around, multiple times I got pinched. You say, well, you just got to get used to the air gun. It's building up pressure, so as you're pumping it up 7, 8, 9, 10 times, it's getting harder. And in order to be able to get that lever action going, you got to get back a little bit farther on the handle, and that's when the pinch points really bite in. The CROSMAN, nice round radiuses. I've never had a problem where I've pinched my hand on a CROSMAN at all. The overall look of these air guns, one, the UMAREX Strike Point just looks like this RoboCop futuristic air gun that you would see maybe if you're playing laser tag down at your local mall. Whereas the CROSMAN actually looks like an air pistol. As far as aesthetics and looks, I would definitely have to give it to the CROSMAN. Let's talk about shooting this air gun. For me, it was an issue of being able to aim this air gun with the hood over the front sight. It blocks the object that you're looking at where you're trying to sight in on, and it made it a distraction. If they're going to do a Gen 2, I would definitely take that off there, because it's definitely impedes your vision when you're trying to sight this air gun and trying to hit a target. Whereas just the single blade, and then you have the regular post on the back, or you can throw a peep on there. It just makes it easy to shoot, and it makes it a transition if you're going into other air guns. It's no big secret to me. I'm just going to get to the rat killer. I think the CROSMAN won this shootout, hands down, all day, every day. I think UMAREX, you guys got to go back to the drawing board. I mean, there's probably an engineer that you need to fire who designed this air gun with the pinch points, how hard it is to pump up, being able to sight it properly. I only have one use for this air gun, and I'll show you guys real quick. So, there's only one good use for this air gun, and it's none. We're going to donate it. It's going to the landfill. Let's just get it out there right now. One, I paid for both these air guns with my own money. Two, I owe it to you to give you an honest review. I feel this gun is unsafe. Being able to cock it first before you pump it up is just a fail. You shouldn't have to do that with any sort of air gun. Just that alone would be cause to throw it in the trash can. But my only allegiance isn't to these airgun companies. It's to you folks out there. You guys work hard for your money, and I respect that. And I don't want you to throw down 60, 70, 80 bucks on something that's going to be worthless. So with that said, the CROSMAN won out, no problem at all. And like I said also, this right here needs to go in the trash bin where it's going to go. As always, I thank you folks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care, folks.